Coming up today on Public Eye News, Republicans are working to introduce their new health care bill, and exploding hoverboards are causing issues for consumers around the world.
We'll have your weather forecast for the upcoming week, and sports anchor Alyssa Lambert has news on the NMU swimming team. Hi, I'm Charles Owsley.
And I'm Hannah Schutzkes. Welcome to Public Eye News. A snowmobiler was injured at an Ontonagon County Fairgrounds racing event this weekend. The snowmobiler's skis came off the ground when he took off. When he landed, he lost control of the snowmobile and was ejected. The snowmobile ran over his leg before coming to a stop. The individual was transported to the hospital by ambulance and was treated and later released. A house fire broke out Sunday night in Calumet around 9 p.m. The Michigan State Police released a statement that no one was injured in the fire. The cause of the blaze is unknown.
The Marquette County Sheriff's Office confirmed that former NMU hockey coach Walt Kyle has been arrested on charges of fraud. Kyle was arrested and charged with 1 count of residential mortgage fraud and 1 count of forgery of documents. Kyle's attorney, George Hyde, released a statement on Friday stating, quote, "These charges against my client, Mr. Walt Kyle, are extremely unfortunate and a prime example of misunderstanding and misrepresentation of the facts," end quote. Kyle's charges carry a 15 and 14-year sentence, respectively. Kyle has been released on bond. The UP Builder Show came to a close this weekend, featuring vendors ranging from contractors to concrete suppliers. Vendors at the event weren't just making sales, though. They were also judged on their displays. Over 5,000 people attended the event in the Superior Dome, which vendors say was a huge bump in business. Officials from the show say this year's feedback was overall positive, and several vendors have already signed up for spots for next year.
2 people died of carbon monoxide poisoning outside of Detroit on Friday. Police say a 75-year-old and a 70-year-old were running a generator at a southern Michigan home during power outages due to last week's windstorm. Officers found extremely high levels of carbon monoxide in the house and enclosed garage, where the generator was located. Utility companies say electricity has since been restored to over 90% of the 1.1 million Michigan homes and businesses that lost power from the strong winds. It's estimated all power will be restored by the end of today. The student members of the Michigan Bicentennial Archive created a time capsule to commemorate the University of Michigan's first 200 years. Instead of the traditional idea of burying the time capsule, the students created a satellite capsule that they've been engineering since 2015. The satellite will contain interviews from 1,000 UM students, faculty, and alumni. The team plans to launch 2 satellites into orbit. The first, expected later this year, is a test run and will be about 1/3 of the size of the actual satellite. The official time capsule will remain in orbit for 100 years. And we'll be back with your national and international news after the break.
Celebrating 130 years of history, tradition, noteworthy patrons, a family-owned business, and 1 iconic hotel.
You open the doors here, you walk in, and what pops up is magic.
Inside Grand Hotel is a new documentary sharing the story of a timeless American treasure with new generations.
Tuesday at 8 after PBS NewsHour on Public TV 13.
And welcome back. The northeastern United States is bracing itself for one last storm this winter. The National Weather Service issued a blizzard watch yesterday for coastal areas, including New York City, Long Island, and Connecticut. The winter storm is expected to dump up to 18 inches of snow in just Central Park alone. Forecasters in New York are expecting sustained winds of 30 miles an hour and gusts up to 50 miles an hour. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo stated yesterday that the New York State Emergency Operations Center would begin operations this evening in order to minimize the impact of the storm. And a 3-year-old girl was killed this weekend in a house fire that officials say was caused by a hoverboard. Anna Werner is here with the danger that first became an issue last summer.
Fire officials in Pennsylvania believe it was a hoverboard that was responsible for this house fire in Harrisburg that killed 3-year-old Ashanti Hughes and critically injured 2 others.
They heard some sizzling and crackling in the hoverboard, and shortly thereafter, it exploded in flames.
Harrisburg Fire Chief Brian Enterline says the family was charging a hoverboard on the first floor when the fire started Friday night.
Lieutenant Dennis DeVoe was responding to that call.
Lieutenant Dennis DeVoe was also killed. He was a 21-year veteran of the fire department involved in a fatal traffic accident while responding to the emergency call. Since 2015, consumers have reported nearly 100 incidents associated with overheating hoverboard battery packs, including this exploding unit at a mall in Texas.
If you own a hoverboard, please stop using it immediately.
Last summer, the Consumer Product Safety Commission recalled over 500,000 hoverboards produced by 8 different manufacturers, all fabricated in China. The commission says the lithium-ion battery packs can overheat and, in some cases, start smoking, catch fire, or explode.
These hoverboards are notorious for starting fires and causing fires across the country.
Anna Werner, CBS News, New York.
A suicide car bomber detonated in Somalia's capital this morning, killing at least 6 people and injuring 4 others. The bomber detonated near a hotel located on a busy road. An al-Qaeda-linked Islamic extremist group claimed responsibility for the blast. The group often targets hotels, attacking one in January that killed at least 26 people. The White House and House Speaker Paul Ryan are setting low expectations for what the Congressional Budget Office will have to say about the number of Americans who will be covered by the GOP plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. Craig Boswell reports from Capitol Hill.
President Trump is trying to rally his party to get behind the GOP health care plan. He tweeted Monday morning, Obamacare is imploding. It is a disaster, and 2017 will be the worst year yet by far. Republicans will come together and save the day. The White House is bracing for some bad headlines about the GOP plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office is crunching the numbers for the massive piece of legislation and will soon give its estimate on how much the plan will cost and how many people will be covered. Outside groups like Brookings and Standard & Poor's have already predicted 10 to 15 million Americans will lose coverage. That's because the GOP plan scales back Obamacare's subsidies, cuts Medicaid, and eliminates the individual mandate.
What we are trying to achieve here is bringing down the cost of care, bringing down the cost of insurance, not through government mandates and monopolies, but by having more choice and competition.
Democrats say the bill has nothing to do with health care.
What this has everything to do with is a massive shift of wealth from working people and middle-income people to the very richest people in this country.
Senator Sanders argues the GOP plan shrinks aid to the poor as it cuts taxes for the wealthy. Craig Boswell, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon announced earlier today that she's seeking to hold a new independence referendum in the next 2 years as the UK makes moves to exit the EU. Sturgeon said that Scotland must not be, quote, taking down a path that we do not want to go down without a choice, end quote. Sturgeon's actions elicited criticism from Prime Minister Theresa May, who say that a second referendum would be disruptive and go against the will of the majority of Scots. And the torso of a massive statue of an Egyptian pharaoh was lifted today from the mud and groundwater where it was buried in a Cairo suburb. This discovery comes after the head was recovered on Thursday. The statue's parts will be assembled at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, where they'll be restored before being moved to the Grand Museum located near the Giza Pyramids. The statue is most likely of Ramses II, who ruled over Egypt for 60 years over 3,000 years ago. And after the break, we'll be back with your weather and sports. Stay tuned.
A special celebration of American folk music.
Michael rowed the boat ashore. There's a meeting here tonight. There's a meeting here tonight. I know you by your friendly face. There's a meeting here tonight.
Tuesday at 9:30 after Inside Grand Hotel on Public TV 13.
And welcome back. Looking across campus, we had a little sunlight earlier, but it looks like winter is back with a vengeance. Let's take a look at the current conditions right now in Marquette. Currently, the temperature is at 20 degrees Fahrenheit, winds coming out of the northeast at 10 miles an hour, barometric pressure is at 30.52 inches and falling. Tonight, we'll have some cloudy weather with a low of 11 degrees, winds coming out of the northeast at 11 miles an hour. And tomorrow, that cloudy weather will stick around with a high of 22 degrees with winds coming out of the northeast at 15 miles an hour. Let's take a look across the UP. In Sault Ste. Marie, partly sunny and 19 degrees. In Manistee, 20 degrees and partly cloudy. In Escanaba, 21 degrees and cloudy. And in Menominee, 24 degrees and cloudy. Taking a look at the western half, over in Iron Mountain, 20 degrees and snowing. In Ironwood, 18 degrees and cloudy. Up in Houghton, 21 degrees and cloudy. And back here in Marquette, 20 degrees. Let's take a look at the weather for the rest of the week. On Wednesday, we'll have a high of 29 with a low of 13 degrees and partly cloudy weather. And on Thursday, we'll have a high of 41 with a low of 21 degrees and mostly sunny. And on Friday, we'll have a high of 39 with a low of 24 and rainy weather. So, Alyssa, the weather isn't going so swimmingly, but I heard that's all our NMU team did this weekend.
Yes, and they did very well, Charles.
Swimmingly?
Yes, they did. NMU swimmer Rachel Helm won a national title in the 100 backstroke event at the NCAA Swimming and Diving Championships Friday, and 3 others received All-American honors. Helm is the first Wildcat swimmer to be crowned a national champion since the 100 butterfly swimmer Erin Vostad in 1999. She also received All-American honors in the 200 backstroke with a 3rd place finish. Teammate Angela Probsfeld also took home her first All-American award by claiming 3rd place in the 3-meter dive. For the men's swim and dive team, Laos Budai earned All-American accolades by finishing 4th in the 100 backstroke and 7th in the 50 freestyle. Renards Boonzies finished 7th in the 200 backstroke event and also received an All-American award. And the Detroit Red Wings fell to the New York Rangers last night 4-1. Everything was tied up until the second period, and then Detroit gave up 2 goals in a 30-second span that left fans speechless. Wings coach Jeff Blashill said at this point he thought his team evened the playing field because they had a little momentum. In the 3rd period, the Rangers left opportunities for the Wings to tie up the game with consecutive penalties, but Detroit failed to capitalize on their advantages. Analysts say the Wings played a solid game, but every time they made a mistake, the puck ended up in the back of their net. Only 8 home games remain at the Joe before the Wings move to the Little Caesars Arena in the fall. And it's that time of year again. March Madness has returned. This year's Duke Blue Devils were the overwhelming preseason favorite, and Baylor went from being unranked in the preseason to its first ever #1 ranking. However, spectators can find a true underdog story in the Northwestern Wildcats, who have made the tournament for the first time in 77 years. The top 5 favorites include my personal pick, the Kentucky Wildcats, the North Carolina Tar Heels, the Kansas Jayhawks, the Bulldogs of Gonzaga, and the #1 seeded Villanova Wildcats. Fill out your picks for the college basketball tournament before the games begin tomorrow, with New Orleans and Mount St. Mary's tipping off at 6:40 p.m. Eastern. You can also fill out a bracket online and create a contest with your friends. So I made a bracket, and it's not based on any statistical facts whatsoever, but how many friends I have that go to each school. And it's also National Napping Day, so I'm excited to go home and take a nap after this.
National Nap Day.
Yes, indeed.
And that's all the time we have for you today on Public Eye News. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
The preceding program was produced in studios located in the Edgar L. Hardin Learning Resources Center by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television.